This is Angela from the website naturallivingalchemy.ca. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you a recipe on how you can make dandelion banana bread muffins. You could also do it as a loaf. I've done both, and it is really up to you. This recipe is so customizable, and I'm going to share a couple different ways that you can do it throughout this video. So be sure to check out the description box below to find a link to the full written blog article that accompanies this video that goes into more detail about the ingredients we're going to be using in today's recipe. However, the main focus for our recipe today is dandelion petals. Now, before we get any further, I just want to let you know I'm not a doctor. None of what is on this channel is considered medical advice. It is for education and entertainment purposes only. It is up to you to talk to your healthcare professionals before following any of my advice. So let's talk a little bit about dandelion, otherwise known as Taraxacum officinale. Why would we want to include dandelion in something like this recipe? Well, I'm going to let you know a couple of the different health benefits that we can actually acquire from adding dandelion into our diet. So, the taste of dandelion is sweet, and if you get some of more of these like green parts, that part's a little bit more bitter. All right. However, these tastes actually do stuff within our body. So dandelion works as an alterative, helping to eliminate excess dampness from the body and helping to cool down excessive heat within the system. It works as a diuretic, which is rich in potassium, and it can help your cells evacuate more water. All right. Diuretics do more than just make you pee. They actually help cleanse the waters of your entire body. Dandelion helps improve digestion and liver function by stimulating blood flow and moving stuck energy. It is a nutritive source of fiber, antioxidants, and polyphenols, helping to modulate inflammation and any free radical damage. It helps restore the good bacteria in your gut and helps normalize your gut microbiome. The pollen found on the flower heads help activate your immune system and can help modulate immune cells and their responses. And lastly, dandelion works as a trophorestorative, just gradually restoring normal function to tissues, organs, and systems within the body. So energetically, dandelion is cooling with a net drying effect overall. And it's tonifying while simultaneously helping to open up and loosen stagnant energy within the tissues. Now, it is contraindicated if you are on any medication. All right. It does interact with quite a few different ones, which is why it's up to you to talk to your healthcare professionals. And I'm also going to ask you to avoid dandelion if you are allergic to them or to the Asteraceae family of plants. Now, the ruling planet of dandelion is Jupiter, and the ruling element is water. Because as we just saw, it works as a diuretic, working on the waters of your body and the various systems. There are a couple of things that I would like you to take note of when you are wildcrafting dandelions or any plant for that matter. All right. You need to be cautious that you are not harvesting your plants anywhere by roads. Okay. Please don't eat asparagus you found in ditches on the road beside the highways, for example. You're going to be possibly absorbing some of the runoff from the different vehicles that have gone and driven by those ditches, for example. All right. So you also want to make sure that you're not picking plants from anywhere that has been sprayed with pesticides or herbicides. Okay. So if you don't know, ask. But what I like to do is just pick them out of my front yard because I don't treat any of my weeds. I don't actually consider them weeds. They are helpful, right? And I just know what's on there. So I will just ask you to do the same. Now, one last thing, another part of responsible foraging, please leave enough for the bees and the other pollinators, especially now that it's spring and there aren't necessarily, at least in my part of the world, a lot of other flowers out for our pollinators to experience or use, okay? Now, if you have watched a few of my videos, you will notice that I almost always, mention the ruling planet and the ruling element of our plant allies. So there's a reason as to why I am doing that. Number one, I'm actually studying something called astroherbalism, which is basically astrology and herbalism combined. Okay. And I just like to include this information for anybody else who might be finding that type of thing interesting. Two, by knowing the planetary rulers of a plant, and every single plant has a planetary ruler, you can actually start to harness another sort of healing and practicing something that's called plant alchemy. Now, if you haven't noticed, this channel is called Natural Living Alchemy for a reason. It's not just because those are fancy, pretty words that sound good together. So each day of the week has a planetary ruler assigned to it. All right. So Sunday is the sun. All right. Monday or moon day is the moon. Tuesday is Mars. Wednesday, Mercury. Thursday, or you could call it Thor's day, is ruled by Jupiter. And that would be related to the Norse god of thunder, Thor. Friday, which is ruled by Venus. Venus is related to the Norse goddess Freya. All right. And Saturday is ruled by Saturn. Okay. So we have each day is ruled by a planetary ruler. It gets even more broken up. So each day is actually broken up into planetary hours, where each hour is ruled by a different planet. So in the description box, I'm going to have a link that you can check out that is a planetary hour calculator that you can use. So you would just put in your location and it just kind of figures out the rest for you. So if you can make or harvest your plant materials, make your medicines, whatever, when the planetary ruler is shining its influence strongest, your medicine is actually going to have greater healing effects. All right, as we can hear, our oven is now heated up, and I am going to show you how easily all of this comes together. And I'm going to share a couple of different ways as I am putting this together on how you can actually customize it for yourself. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is collect your dandelion petals. Now, I've found that approximately 3 cups, just under 3 cups of the flower heads will give you just 1 cup of flowers. So, just a second here. That was kind of annoying when it was banging. I'm just going to show you how easy it is to actually take that. How do you separate it? Okay, so the easiest way that I have found to do it, okay, let's make sure we don't get any in our other ingredients. So I find that you just kind of grab it on the bottom. You're going to want to split it in half like this. Hold your 2 halves open, and then just take your nail and then just gradually kind of grab and pull these out. Okay. And just be careful that you are getting them in your bowl and that actually that you're leaving the green parts out, because as I said, those are a little bit bitter. So you're just going to open it, hold it open, grab your thumb, and just gently pull all of these out. Now, I did wash them before I started taking them apart, so I will just request that you do the same. If you don't, well, it's up to you, but I would prefer mine washed before they go in. So what we are going to do is we are going to take 2 to 3 bananas, kind of depending on how you like it. I like mine a little bit more banana-y, so I've used 3. So to that, you are going to add some sugar. So you have some choices on what kind of sugar you want to use. You can use any of them. I have made this with plain white refined sugar. It worked. But what I actually like to use is it is dehydrated sugar cane. It comes in a hard little block like this, and you would just grate it. And I find it works exactly the same as sugar because it pretty much is that before it's been processed. So you are going to add half of a cup into your bananas. So I'm going to get you to grab a whisk and you're just going to whisk them together. This one is actually for sourdough, but I find it does a really good job of just different kind of bread doughs. So once your sugar and your bananas are incorporated, you are then going to add your eggs you left on the counter over here. So we're just going to put those in, and we'll just kind of keep whisking these all together. Okay, so next you want to take half a cup of milk. And to that, you are going to add a quarter cup of olive oil. You can actually use any oil that you wanted. I just have olive oil. Now, one way that you can customize it is this olive oil I've actually infused with chamomile flowers. So it has like actually the apple smell of chamomile. So I'm hoping that that's going to pass through into the recipe. You can use an infused oil or not. You can really, really customize it in that way. So if you were going to make your own infused chamomile oil, all you would do is I used about 7 grams of chamomile flowers in some olive oil, and I infused that in my herbal infusing machine for 10 hours at 100 degrees. All right. If you don't have an herbal infusing machine, you can definitely just put the flour or your plant material in the olive oil and just do maybe like a 6-week infusion that way. All right. But I have an herbal machine, so why not use it? So we're going to add our oil and our milk. And then to that, we are going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. All right. And I just like to kind of give that a little bit of a stir together. And we are going to just slowly add this into our mixture. Next, after that is all nicely incorporated, you're going to add 1 cup of dandelion petals. All right. And then once that is all mixed in, you are going to grab another bowl. And in here, you're going to need 2 cups of flour. So this is another way that you can customize it. You can use just white flour. You can use any kind of flour. You can use any combination of flours. The only thing I am going to say is I have never made this in a gluten-free version, so I'm not quite sure how the gluten-free flours would work. Now, if you happen to make this and you do make a gluten-free version, go ahead and share that with me because I would love to know how that turned out. It's just not something I'm very familiar with. So what I have for my flour mixture is actually 1 cup of just plain white flour and 1 cup of organic spelt flour. Now, I didn't want it all spelt because that can taste very, very, very wheaty, basically. Okay. Like a very, very strong whole wheat. But I find if you add the white flour, it kind of just tones it down a little bit in that way. So, like I said, you can use any of them. I've used just white flour for the whole thing and it turned out really, really good. But my favorite has just been this combination of 1 cup of spelt, 1 cup of white flour. So to that, you are going to add half a teaspoon of sea salt. And then lastly, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Make sure I have the right one because I would be lying if I told you I didn't once accidentally use baking soda in a recipe. It didn't work. All right. So now that we have these, we're just going to kind of mix them together a little bit. And then we're just going to start adding them into our banana mixture. Probably could have grabbed a bigger bowl, but we didn't. Sometimes it's kind of the opposite. If you ever taken too much on a plate, your eyes were too big. It's kind of the same way when I try to figure out what bowls I need to be cooking with. Usually I pick one that's too small and it kind of just makes a mess. Do you do the same? If so, comment down below. Let me know I'm not alone. I was wondering too, instead of using sugar, what something like a honey would be, or one of the maybe even something like a date syrup. But really, just experiment and see what you come up with, see what you like. All right. So once everything is nicely incorporated, I'm going to be using muffins tins. Now, if you wanted, you could definitely just do this in a loaf, but I just like the idea of just grabbing a muffin. So now I actually have a couple other food recipes that I am going to be bringing you. There's a lavender infused bannock that I've been kind of playing around with. That's, oh my gosh, like eating springtime. But, okay, so once these are about the same size, you're just going to throw them in the oven. You're going to let them bake, and that's it. They are so easy to come together just like that. So like I said, we're going to just throw these. Just a second here. Okay. It has now been about 25 minutes. I checked these, they are all cooked throughout. So all you would need to do is just take them and put them on a rack to finish cooling. Now, I like to just eat these with cut it in half, put like a big old slab of like butter in between, and I find it to be quite delicious. But really, you can eat it however you want. Now, you actually did definitely pick up some of the chamomile scent, so I am excited for these to cool off so I can give one a try. I do apologize, I was not as consistent as I thought I was in those sizes, but that's okay. I made these for me and my family. It's not like I'm trying to sell them or anything like that, so you don't need to worry about them being that pretty, but they are delicious. Now, one other thing I did think of while these were baking, um, so I use dandelions, but you could use so many other edible flowers. Now, I do have this book. It's The Healing Garden, Cultivating and Handcrafting Herbal Remedies. But in here, it actually has a list of all of the different edible flowers that you could cook with, like apple blossoms or bee balm or rose, red clover, sunflower, thyme, and violet. So I will write all of these in that blog article that's going to be, you can find the link in the description box, just so you can see other types of flowers that you might want to incorporate into this recipe. I was even thinking if you had fresh chamomile flowers, that would be quite tasty. So comment down below and let me know How did this recipe turn out for you? Did you leave it as is? Did you customize it a bit? I'd just really love to hear about your experience with making it. And don't forget to hit the like button if you liked the video. And maybe consider sharing it with somebody else who you think might benefit or enjoy learning how to make something like this. Maybe consider subscribing to the channel so that we can spend more time together and you don't miss future videos. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, so you can find me over there as well. But I really just would like to thank you for spending this time with me today, especially if you made it to the end. And I will see you next time.